We live in a culture that tells us we need more stuff to be happy. More money, more status, more possessions, and more people. Specifically that special person you call your spouse or lover. But what if I told you that a 2,000-year-old philosophical school suggests that kind of thinking is all wrong? Today, I'm going to give you a concrete framework, 7 specific steps, to see if being single is right for you. It'll help you think clearly about your life, your dating options, and how to choose between them. By the end, you'll understand why being single might be the right choice and will know whether it's right for you. We'll start with step 1. The Epictetus test. There is a simple question that cuts through all the nonsense. I call this the Epictetus test, named after the Stoic philosopher who remained single his entire life. Here's the question. What would happen if your special person disappeared tomorrow? Not died. That's tragic and different. Just disappeared. It's a thought experiment, so imagine they're gone with no contact and no explanation, neutrally. What would actually happen to your life? If your honest answer involves phrases like, I wouldn't know who I am. I couldn't function. My life would have no meaning. I'd be completely lost. Then you've identified a philosophical problem. You've outsourced your identity, your purpose, your sense of self to another person. As the Stoics reminded us, we can't control the lives of other people and should try to remain independent when we can. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about events. If losing someone would destroy you, the problem isn't that relationships are risky. The problem is that you've built your entire sense of self on something you don't control. And we want our happiness, as much as possible, to depend on things within our control. That's what our next step, step 2, is the control audit. It's a way of categorizing everything related to your romantic life. Here's how you do it. Take out a piece of paper. Draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write, things I control. On the right side, write, things I don't control. Now, be brutally honest. In your romantic life, what do you actually control? I can give you a list that applies to practically everyone. You control whether you ask someone out, how you treat them, what standards you maintain, whether you stay or leave, how you respond to their behavior, your own emotional regulation, your choice to work on yourself. What you don't control, whether they say yes, whether they stay interested, whether they change over time, whether they're faithful, whether they love you back, whether they choose you long-term, their moods, their past, and their family, whether they break up with you. If you look at those lists carefully, you might be shocked to realize how little is actually in your control. You control maybe 20% of any relationship success. To put it another way, when it comes to romance, there's a lot you can't control. It doesn't matter if you're very smart, very good-looking, or have money. The bottom line is that you can't control other people. As Stoics, that's something we try to always remember, because when we forget the truths of life, we suffer. In general, the Stoics taught this radical idea: focus only on what you control and accept everything else as it is. If you can't be happy with the percentage that you control, then you're setting yourself up for a life of anxiety and disappointment. Let's go into these in detail. Whether you ask someone out is the first thing you control. This is your first act of agency in any potential relationship. You decide when you're ready to express interest, how directly you want to communicate your feelings, and whether you're willing to risk rejection for the possibility of connection. This choice requires you to overcome fear, manage your ego, and take responsibility for your romantic life rather than waiting for others to make the first move. It's about recognizing that you can't control their response, but you can absolutely control whether you give yourself the chance to find out what that response might be. How you treat them is something you control. Every interaction is a choice between kindness and cruelty, respect and dismissiveness, generosity and selfishness. You control whether you listen when they speak, remember what matters to them, show up when you say you will, and speak to them with consideration even during disagreements. This encompasses everything from daily courtesy to how you handle major conflicts. Whether you choose words that build up or tear down, whether you prioritize being right or being loving, and whether you treat them as someone worthy of your best self rather than a target for your frustrations. What standards you maintain is under your control. Your standards are your relationship compass, the non-negotiables that guide your decisions about who you date and what you'll accept. You control whether you require honesty, respect, effort, and basic human decency from partners, or whether you compromise these fundamentals out of loneliness or fear. This means knowing your values and having the courage to walk away from relationships that violate them, even when it's painful. Standards aren't about perfection, but about maintaining your self-respect and creating space for healthy love to flourish. Whether you stay or leave is under your control. Perhaps your most powerful relationship control is the exit door. You always have the choice to leave. This doesn't mean running at the first sign of trouble, but recognizing when you've given genuine effort and the relationship remains harmful or fundamentally incompatible. You control when to work through problems versus when to protect yourself by leaving. This choice gives you power even in difficult relationships, because it reminds you that you're choosing to be there, not trapped, which changes how you show up entirely. How you respond to others' behavior is under your control. While you can't control what they do, your response is completely yours to choose. You can respond to their anger with curiosity instead of defensiveness, to their mistakes with grace instead of punishment, to their withdrawal with patience instead of panic. This means taking a pause between their action and your reaction, choosing responses that align with your values rather than just your immediate emotions, and refusing to let their behavior dictate whether you become someone you don't want to be. Your emotional regulation is under your control. You are responsible for managing your own emotional state. This means developing healthy coping strategies for stress, anxiety, and disappointment, rather than expecting your partner to constantly manage your moods. It's about learning to relax in your own way, taking space when you need it, and addressing your needs by taking the initiative. Good emotional regulation makes you a better person and protects your relationship overall. Finally, your choice to work on yourself is under your control. Personal growth is your most powerful relationship tool because it's the one area where you have unlimited potential for improvement. This means honestly examining your patterns, taking responsibility for your contributions to relationship problems, and actively developing better skills. When you focus on becoming the partner you'd want to be with, you naturally attract healthier relationships and handle challenges with greater wisdom. Now let's examine how relationships relate to your most precious resource: time. This brings us to our third step. This is step 3, the time audit, or understanding opportunity cost. The approach we recommend here is simple. Count up the time you have and then decide if that's time you want to spend on yourself or share with another person. Cleanthes, another single Stoic philosopher, worked as a boxer and night laborer to fund his philosophical studies. He understood opportunity cost. Every hour spent on one thing is an hour not spent on another. So the way you balance that is to do a time audit. Time is precious, and all the time, whether we like it or not, we're spending it. So to figure out how we're doing, we have to examine what we're spending our time on, including in our relationships. Here's a list of things you will be spending time on, like it or not, in a typical modern relationship. Relationship maintenance. Texting and calling, planning dates, going on dates, discussing the relationship with your partner, managing your emotions for your partner, gift shopping, special occasion shopping, doing travel, including pickups, with and for them. The question you have to ask yourself is, what could you accomplish with that time instead? What skill could you master? What business could you build? What art could you create? The question isn't meant to be cold or calculating. It's about being honest. Every choice has an opportunity cost. The question is whether you're making that choice consciously. By asking it now, you can find your answer, and then act on it. This brings us to our fourth step. This covers the attachment inventory, or what you really need. This is all about understanding your time. To do that, you need to do an attachment inventory. Think about what you'd want in a partner, what you're seeking. Some common answers are emotional support when you're down, someone to share good news with, physical affection, sex, social status, financial security, help with decisions, validation, someone to do activities with, and someone who helps you feel less lonely. Now, write them down, and next to each item, write whether this is something you could learn to provide for yourself, or find outside a relationship through friends and family. The truth is that a lot of what we think we need from romantic partners, we can get elsewhere, or develop within ourselves. The question becomes, are you looking to date someone because you genuinely enjoy their company, or because of psychological wants and needs you could meet in other ways? For advice on this, we turn to Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life." The question is, have you learned to be happy with that very little? Or are you demanding that another person make up for what you haven't developed in yourself? Being single isn't just the absence of a relationship. It's a specific set of advantages that coupled people don't have. If you like those advantages more than you like having a partner, it could be the right choice for you. That's why our focus in Step 5 is understanding the advantages of staying single. Here they are, in no particular order. You can make decisions quickly. When you want to move cities, change careers, or travel the world, how long does it take you to decide? It could be as little as a couple of hours. Compare that to couples who need to have 17 conversations, consider two people's careers, and negotiate compromises. That speed can be a competitive advantage. You can achieve greater self-knowledge. When you're alone with your thoughts, what do you discover? In relationships, we often become performers, managing our image and reacting to another person's needs. When you're single, you can dig deeper into who you actually are, what you actually want, and what you actually believe. This is something the Stoics deeply valued, and which can give us all a better quality of life. You can have a high risk tolerance for big life changes. Think of the biggest risk you could take right now, if you are or were single. You could start a business that might fail. You could move to another country. You could spend 6 months learning a new skill. Single people can take risks that would be relationship killers. You can have uncompromised values and value alignment. Your values don't have to be negotiated with anyone else. If you believe in minimalism, you can live minimally. If you value intense focus, you can work intensely. If you value adventure, you can be adventurous. No compromise required. You have the freedom to pursue your own interests. This one is a big one. When you're with someone else, you will have to make compromises, and some of the things that you would prefer to do, you just won't be able to do as much. Usually because your partner doesn't find them interesting. Especially if what you want to do involves taking trips or big commitments. Many partners won't like it, and eventually you'll stop. If you're single, and you have an interest that takes time and commitment, by staying single, you can really enjoy it. You have greater commitment capacity. You can often commit to things in a way that's difficult to do when you're in a relationship. Maybe you want to start a business, which will take all of your time and require you to travel. That's very hard to do in a relationship. It definitely causes stress. Remember that if you do have something which is going to take a lot of time in your near future, you can always stay single for now and change your decision later. There's no reason why not. You have peace and quiet. Being in a relationship involves some compromises with space and noise. There's a second person around, and it's a little different. As a single person, you have all the space you want, and that extra space has value. You have financial control. Another advantage of staying single, for many people, is just saving money. Maybe you're in a place in life where it's valuable to have full control over your finances and your money. By staying single, you can have more, and that's a nice thing. I'm not saying it's the only thing, or that it's necessarily the most important thing, but it is a nice thing. It does have some value. Finally, you have more control over your environment. Living with another person involves a lot of compromises over your environment, how clean you're going to keep it or not keep it. These are all things that you have to work out with another person, and you're going to have to make choices which are going to be different than what you would have decided on your own, frequently. So you want to think about that and make sure you're making the choices that are right for you. Together, these are all genuine advantages that coupled people have to give up. The question is, are these advantages more valuable to you than what you'd gain in a relationship? Only you can answer that, but the answer will depend on you and what you want. That's why step 6 is about contemplating the Stoic perspective on choice and virtue. Remember that dating is a choice. You do it because you want to, and if you don't want to, then you don't have to do it. Modern life carries a lot of responsibilities with it. In my opinion, even without anyone extra in your life, modern life still asks a lot of us. So if someone doesn't fit well into your life, that's how it is. You accept it, and you keep living. Consider for a moment what dating asks of us, and of the people who are in our lives. What are we asked to do as Stoics? What is the most important thing? It's not dating, it's living virtuously. For example, it's making the right choices for others and for ourselves. It's doing good in the world, the kind of good that Marcus Aurelius did as emperor. It's helping people, helping others, and helping ourselves. That's what matters the most. Secondarily, we have choices to make about how we live our lives. We should always remember as Stoics that we have choices. Life is all about choices. So one choice is, does someone else fit right now in my life? You shouldn't feel pressured to give an answer that doesn't sit well with you. If you don't match with people around you, then that's life. Always remember that we can be happy by ourselves. So much of Stoicism is about looking within yourself and finding joy and satisfaction from within. We live in a society that doesn't value that, which doesn't honor it. So much of the messages we hear are based around buying more and getting more, whether it's money or status or possessions. Stoicism subverts that. Stoicism tells us that real happiness comes from within, so that means it isn't dependent on anything external or a second person. Remember also, as Stoic thinking frequently reminds us, things could be worse. Dating a bad person can bring horrible consequences into your life. It can bring turmoil. It can bring sadness. It can involve lots of moral compromises if the person you're dating is not honest or asks you to make choices which you know you really shouldn't make. Furthermore, all you have to do is look at the history of very expensive divorces to see relationships that, if the person in question had known what would happen, they would not have started. When you date someone, you don't know the future, so it's really incumbent on you to try very hard to choose right. And if you don't know what to choose, then you make the choice not to choose that future. That's okay. So now we've gone over why you might want to stay single, the advantages and disadvantages, what you're getting and what you're giving up. It's time to integrate them all in Step 7, the 4-week experiment. Whether you're currently single or not, try this experiment for a month. Take a week that you treat as your Relationship Awareness Week. Notice every time you think, if only I had someone. Write it down. What specifically do you think you're missing? By the end of the week, you'll have a list of those thoughts. After that, try a week where you see what would happen if you acted on those thoughts without a partner. In other words, every time you catch yourself wishing for a partner, redirect that energy towards something you control. Want someone to share good news with? Call a friend. Want physical affection? Get a massage. Want validation? Work out. You get the idea. Then, try a solo enjoyment week. Practice enjoying things alone that most people normally share. Go to a nice restaurant by yourself. See a movie alone. Take a weekend trip solo. Notice what's actually uncomfortable versus what you just assumed would be uncomfortable. Finally, end with an evaluation week. Look back on the experiences you've had over these weeks and reflect. What did you actually miss versus what you thought you would miss? What did you discover about yourself? What advantages of being single did you actually experience? By now, you should have enough data to write your own rules instead of following culture's script, and that will enable you to make the decision that's right for you. In the end, I'm not telling you that being single is always better. I'm not even telling you it's right for you. What I'm telling you is that you have more choice than culture wants you to believe. Epictetus and Cleanthes, two of history's most influential philosophers, lived their entire lives single. Not because they couldn't find anyone, but because they found something else more valuable: complete ownership of their own lives. You might find the same thing. Or you might decide that what you'd gain in a relationship is worth what you'd give up. But now you can make that choice consciously, based on your own values and your own cost-benefit analysis, instead of just following the cultural script that says you need someone else to be complete. The Stoics were right about one thing: we control very little in life. But we do control our choices, and sometimes the most radical choice is to choose yourself. If this video helped you take back control of your life, leave a comment below sharing which strategy resonated most with you. Your insight might be exactly what another viewer needs to choose the right relationship, and remember to subscribe for more Stoic wisdom that builds mental strength and practical resilience. As Epictetus, a great Stoic thinker, once said, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." Whether you're single by choice or single by circumstance, you now have a framework for freedom, for thinking through the choice that is for you. We hope you can use it and benefit from it. You can live a fulfilling life with yourself or with someone else. The choice is yours. Whatever you do, believe in your reasons and be proud of your choice. We'll see you in the next one.